Good afternoon. How are you all doing today, you beautiful people? Are you good? Are you well? Let me know in the comments below and give this video a like. If you are watching live, we're going to be talking about Joao Cancelo. It's Stephen here on Tuesday, 5 to 5 as I'm recording this. It looks like our man, a former Manchester City man, Joao Cancelo, has joined Al Hilal, the latest superstar off to Saudi football. And it's a weird one. It's basically a story of what could have been. I'll talk about that today, what that means. I'll talk about the latest Atletico Madrid Mateus Nunes rumours, a little bit on his Kabore as well, has been attracting interest, and plenty more, I'm sure. But yeah, once again, please give the video a like, subscribe if you are new. It does mean the world to me, a lifelong Manchester City fan. Help support the channel. It's great. I'm very sleepy today, so if I stumble over my words, blame my son, Reuben. I'm absolutely knackered. But we will crack on, and we will focus on the City news today. 100 people watching already. Let's get the likes up. Let's get to 115 likes as always. We've got to get that 115 likes. It's the aim. Hello to Slicky, Devious, Franz, Rehan, Joel, Jonathan, Beppy, Leo Roy, Sani, Double Dog, and Ali Benabia in the chat. Yeah, Oasis back. Manchester City got Gundogan back. A lot of things are changing, aren't they, right now? Lots going on in the past 24 hours. I also would like to start this video on a sort of somber note as well, really. And put on record my own sort of verbal tribute to Sven Goran Eriksson, who passed away. Yeah, Sven, an absolute legend. I've not obviously had a chance to talk about it on a video yet, but I loved Sven Goran Eriksson, and I want to just say rest in peace to the great man, and wish all the best to his family. Obviously, they'll never see this video, but I feel like I just need to put it out into the air anyway. Sven was a wonderful coach. I always feel like football's at its very best when it's filled with optimism, hope, joy, a thrilling sense of excitement of the unknown. And Sven's season at Manchester City sort of brought all that to me. It really did, and I can only be eternally grateful for that. The football was, it was exciting. We did the double over United. We brought in a bunch of wonderful players, but most of all, he sort of brought a charm and fun to the Etihad Stadium and a sort of belief of what could be. I remember the early days of that season when we were around the top of the league and everything looked wonderful, and the heady days of Bianchi scoring his debut against West Ham and seeing Giovanni scoring against United as we won, and all these players that came in that were just so much fun to watch. And Sven was a large part of that, you know. It was really a good time. But away from the football stuff, which ultimately sort of pales in comparison in importance, he clearly was a good man, a humble man off the pitch. I'm not going to say he was perfect, and he'd be the first to admit that. He had his issues away from the pitch in terms of relationships. But it doesn't matter. Everyone makes mistakes. But the way he spoke with people, the way he treated his colleagues, the way he had an elegance and a sort of an appreciation and calmness with people. Look, you don't get a lot of that in this world. People are very quick to be on the defensive, and they lack basic civil manners. And Sven was a lovely man who very much appreciated the fine things in life, and I've got an awful lot of time for that. A humble man and kind, and a great manager. And yeah, I want to say rest in peace to Sven. Thank you for making me feel involved with the club in a way that I hadn't previously. I'd been a Manchester City fan for 20 odd years at that point, but I don't know, when the news around Sven at the time that the consider sacking him came out, I'd never really felt closer to the fan base. I remember the energy and the swell of support around him, and I remember feeling right in the middle of that for the first time as a fan, like feeling that same sort of camaraderie with the fan base. And I don't know, he brought a lot to this club. So the end of a previous era before it all changed, of course, the year after. But Sven, anyway, rest in peace, and I'm sure you're going to be sipping champagne wherever you are right now. So yeah, rest in peace, big man. You're a great manager and a great person. So we'll move on respectfully onto today's news. I just wanted to get that out there personally. We're going to talk about Fabrizio Romano's latest report about Joao Cancelo. We're going to a very different era of football here, aren't we? Joao Cancelo will be moving to Al Hilal. I'll go over to Fabrizio's report. He says, here we go, confirmed deal in place for €25 million package to Manchester City. Cancelo completed the first part of the medical and verbal agreement, and the verbal agreement is done. Waiting to sign documents in the next hours. The salary will be up to $15 million package net per year on a deal until 2027, which is an awful lot of money. I think it's something like 400,000 a week or something like that. And that is eye-watering money for any player. The package around 25 million euros sort of contrasts a little bit with the previous reports of around 35 million. I'm inclined to feel like there's some sort of narrative going around here with the deal, because it was the City Report lads that I saw sort of break it, and they said around 35 million euros. And then Jack Gorn also backed that number up as well. And it's gone down by 10 million in the space of a few days. I don't know what's happened there. I wouldn't be surprised if someone at one side try and make it look better than it is. Who knows? But I'm inclined to feel it's probably a slightly higher than this, but we never know. And ultimately, I don't really care. I mean that in the nicest way possible. Ultimately, I'm just happy that this is sort of over for two reasons. One, for three reasons, really. I think finality is important. I think moving on and separating sort of ties with where there's so much history and luggage between the two parties, Cancelo and Man City, just move on. Move on. For his sake and for Manchester City's sake, everyone needs to move on. So we're not doing that. What's he going to do this year? Loans. He's going to be around pre-season training. Do we have to pretend that Guardiola wants him in the squad? Just separate. Two, financially for Manchester City, and not that I really care about our financial figures, I'm a fan after all, but I think apparently he was on around 10 million a year, so that frees up that a lot of wages, and he was here until 2027. And three, most importantly, he gets the number 7 back. The number 7 is such an iconic shirt that we need it back and available. I agree with those in the chat saying that. I don't know if anyone will take it now, because I feel like the squad numbers have been registered for the season. Someone confirm if you can change that or not. I don't know, but I do want the number 7 back. Phil will stay as a number 47, almost certainly. But Oscar Bob 7, Savinho 7, I would very much like it, I would like to see. So, I think, Phil's number 47 was actually the year it was the age, I think his granddad passed away at 47. So he's staying that out of respect, which I really like and love. I appreciate that massively. Maybe Musiala 7 next year. I like that too, guys. But either way, I think this is a great move for everyone. Joao Cancelo was a fantastic player at Manchester City Football Club. I think it's worth remembering just how good he is. There's a tendency to let recency bias sort of, frame the discussion or maybe tint your memory a little bit. But I think it is worth bearing in mind that Joao Cancelo had a really good time at Manchester City for a while, Joined in 2019. He had basically 3 seasons where he was really good. He literally got in 2 Premier League teams of the year in 2021, 2022, often as a left back, which Guardiola sort of reinvented him under. He won 3 leagues in a row. He won an FA Cup. I don't know. He didn't win an FA Cup. That was technically the treble season, which no, he did win an FA Cup. Sorry, yeah, he did. No, he didn't. That was the treble season. So he actually didn't. Did he get the FA Cup? I don't know. He played in the early round, so we'll see. But either way, in Manchester City, he achieved an awful lot. But he did, unfortunately, have a tendency to be a little bit self-destructive. Now, Cancelo has always been emotional. You've only got to look at his career and where he's moved around from. He does not stay anywhere for long. He was at Benfica, then he was at Valencia for a couple of years, then he was at Inter Milan for a year, then he was at Juventus for a couple of years, then he was at Man City for... He was at Juventus for a year. Then he was at Man City for 3 seasons before he blew that up. Then he was at Bayern for a bit. Then he was at Barcelona for a bit. And he's not really settled. Anywhere. He didn't win the FA Cup with us. He didn't win the Champions League with us, in my opinion. He wasn't even here for half the season. I don't think he played enough anyway I don't think he got a medal. And the FA Cup was when he was already out on loan. So I don't know. Maybe he technically did. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't care. The point is, he did win some trophies with us. He's a big part of it. But he's always struggled to sort of stay in one place for a long time. And usually when players move around of that high quality, there tends to be an underlying issue. Like the true great players, if they're at a great club, they tend to just stay there. Like, there's a reason Man City have got several players who've been here for several years or whatever. It's because largely, they don't need to move on because they get paid well and they're at the pinnacle of football. But Cancelo has always sort of had issues of the esteem variety. Like, his self-esteem is ridiculous, man. Like, I don't know if he loves himself a lot or doubts himself a lot. Whatever it is, he feels like Cancelo never fully settles somewhere and takes things to heart very quickly. At the time when it all blew up, it blew up quickly. There were rumours going around about him struggling a bit. Hair in my mouth there, sorry. Him struggling a little bit to accept that his performances weren't good enough, that Rico Lewis was playing ahead of him, that others were playing ahead of him. He didn't like that, apparently. Ake was getting, obviously, the left-back role. Rico was playing on the right a fair bit, which obviously Kyle Walker was affected, but Kyle Walker was here, took it well, stayed. It felt like Cancelo takes things very personally. Now, he's had a lot of trauma in his life. I'm not going to deny that. And I understand people are complex and the reasons for everything. I'm not going to hate on Cancelo. I'm not going to sort of, bring him down for the sake of it. Because I understand people are complex and trauma manifests in many ways for a person. But he's always been a little bit insecure and never really felt like anywhere was his home. It's felt like that. And I do wonder if there's sort of some different, deep-rooted issues there. Maybe I'm getting a bit too, pseudo-psychological. I don't know. I don't know. But to me, Cancelo was just too explosive for whatever reason. Some people are like that. He's ultimately a phenomenal footballer. But even away from the mentality stuff, I think, if we're being honest, I think Manchester City were ultimately a better team when he moved on. And I know it sounds really cruel, but when you look at the final incarnation of what the treble winning side was, it was solid. It was more reliable. It was sturdy. It was a better version of Manchester City. It may have been more fun with Cancelo in the team every now and then. And I was a big part of it, that appreciation club with the Cancelo culture and all that kind of stuff. But in hindsight, you can tell that, Cancelo, and I think Laporte was reasonably similar. They did make mistakes every now and then in the latter stages of the Champions League. They never felt rock solid. And I really like both of them, by the way. But defensively, they didn't feel like Champions League winners, whereas I think City found that right combination in the end of solidity, professionalism, dedication. We're rolling it together enough. And I think Guardiola, the one thing that age brings you, and I feel like a little bit this myself. Look, I'm older than most footballers now. I'm 38 years old, and I do feel when I look back 10 years ago at my worldview compared to now, it's changed massively because experience in life does change that. And I think Guardiola, as he's gotten older, I think Guardiola understands that some things just absolutely aren't worth it. You can just sack off your £300,000 a week world-class left-back if he's being ultimately a bit of a knobhead in training, because it's not worth it. And Guardiola's decided to become a little bit ruthless. And maybe 10 years earlier, he might have fought against that a little bit more. Maybe not. He might not fought against it. He might have just got rid of him. But I think Guardiola realises that the team chemistry, when you've got a small squad in particular, is absolutely everything in football. It really, really is. And Guardiola went, nope, I'm sick of this. And there were lots of rumours, a lot of unsavoury stuff coming out about Cancelo's temperament, unfortunately. And he moved him on because the players that were behind were harder working and more respectful of their teammates. Now, look, if Guardiola wants to move on a player, it's because you push the wrong buttons. And this is why I always feel pretty much relaxed about any Guardiola decision, because his decision-making in football is absurdly good. He is right 99.99% of the time. And that's why I don't even... if Guardiola does something that I don't understand or looks a bit weird or jumps out, I just wait and see, because he's probably going to be right. So when we're all like, what is he doing getting rid of Cancelo on the last day of the season, last day of the transfer window with no potential replacement? Well, it turns out he was prepping his squad for a treble, because that's what Guardiola does, So... a phenomenal footballer on his day, absolutely. But Guardiola is the best manager in the world, and he decided to move on. So Cancelo, look, it's a shame that he's not going to be playing at the elite level of football anymore. He should be somewhere. He should be at Barcelona or something like that. He's more than good enough. He should be at Manchester City or something like that. But, the Saudi money has come up big again and saved... another club with a nice financial injection. Not saved us, but it's a nice solution. So many teams are looking to the Saudi League for a solution these days, aren't they? And the Saudi League does that. Yeah, Sammy, that doesn't surprise me, mate, about Laporte there. Like, he wasn't a bad person, Laporte, from what I know, but he was definitely grumpy. I heard plenty of reports suggest Laporte was a bit grumpy, and one who felt sorry for himself if he wasn't in the team a little bit. But still, I think he respected his teammates, Laporte, but he was a bit grumpy, apparently, a little bit grumpy. But still, nowhere near to the same level as Cancelo, And I think Laporte realised ultimately when he was moving on what happened. But I love Laporte. I got a lot of love for Laporte, and I don't mind a tiny bit of an ego. If ultimately they're respectful of their teammates, and there was nothing to suggest Laporte wasn't. Um, just probably not quite as harmonious as a Nathan Ake, you know, and Guardiola ultimately built a squad in that image, you know. And I think Nathan Ake, by the way, it's really weird in hindsight now how I feel like Nathan Ake was a really weird watershed moment for Manchester City. I think Nathan Ake is unironically one of the most important people the past few years in Manchester City Football Club. He came in from such a humble background as Bournemouth and took a little bit of time and literally transformed into a world-class defender. And his versatility allowed Guardiola to prove a point, you know, and put people in who wanted it more. And his sort of respectful, focused attitude and consistency, I would say, was a big part of that defence and one of the reasons we won the treble. Yeah, so Ake, I love him. A massive transfer for Manchester City. But yeah, Cancelo does go with blessing, you know, like, I hope he does well. I really do. He's going to earn a packet now for his family. And ultimately, football is a short career. It's emotional. I understand why people gain egos. It wouldn't be me personally to be like that, but it is what it is. It doesn't mean someone's a bad person if they are emotional and a bit overreactive. It just means they can't control their temper. And a lot of people I know and love are like that as well. So, yeah. All the best. And I'm glad that we've moved on from Cancelo because we need to move on from him. He's a really good footballer, but he's not right for this squad anymore. We had his fun. He had his fun with us. And now we are done with it and we can move on. Cancelo, let me know your thoughts on Cancelo in the chat below. It would be massively appreciated. I do want to know your take on this move. And I sort of feel it's the right call. It's the right time. Yeah. Got hair in my mouth. It's driving me mad. Got it. There we go. I'm a hairy guy, you know. I ruffled my hair for it went live and it must have gone. That must make terrible viewing. I apologise in advance. But yeah, we are where we are with Cancelo. Let me know in the comments what you make of it. And I sort of feel numb to it. I know it sounds really awful. But Cancelo, he's not left in a good way. And it ended up being a bit of baggage, unfortunately, that we're all happy to ship away. Good money, though. Decent money. Saved us some money on transfers. And that is where we are. What's goodbye? Goodbye, Joao in Arabic. Someone teach me that. Whatever it is, in a bit. A little bit of news yesterday, which was interesting. Oh, by the way, before we get into the Nunes news, I want to talk about potentially Raheem Sterling joining Man United. That is absurd. Sterling and United is a weird one, and to be honest, it would be a big shame. Sterling, another one that sort of ultimately left under a cloud, I would guess. Far too good a player to leave in the way that he did, in a sort of cold way, you know. And, you know, Sterling is a good player. Could be going to Chelsea as United from a swap deal for Jadon Sancho. And, you know, by the way, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce those, but thank you very much. Also, the reason I'm not going to attempt to pronounce something that I've not yet Googled to translate is because I don't trust you all. You get me to say anything, and I'm very aware of the internet. I will never pronounce something that I haven't Googled beforehand because I am not an idiot, lads. I am not an idiot, and I do not get cancelled because context doesn't matter on the internet. You will get cancelled. But yeah, Sterling, like, look, be going to Liverpool, to City, to Chelsea, to United. You know, I think it's a shame how his career has ended. He should be doing so much better. I actually think he's a really good player, Sterling. Still, I think he'll do well at United. But he also could absolutely flop, you know. I think he's probably got to carry on and have some good moments. I think he's a United fan, isn't he, Sterling, allegedly? I don't know. I saw rumours about that once. So, yeah, I mean, it's a weird one. But, I mean, emotionally, I disconnected from Sterling a long time ago. I think people are always on the fence about whether Sterling's a legend or not. I think he was with what he did on the pitch. But emotionally, there was always a disconnect with Sterling for me. His CV is one of a Manchester City legend, absolutely. But there's something around Sterling that always felt a little bit cold and a little bit off. Not the most warm player. And I don't think that's all his fault for what it's worth. Sterling got a lot of abuse for so long that I wouldn't be surprised if that made him a little bit standoffish and a little bit cold. He didn't deserve all the abuse he got from the papers. He absolutely didn't. I want to categorically say that. But I think it did lead to a slightly defensive and disconnected Sterling every now and then, which wasn't one that was easy to warm to as a fan. When you get people like Zabba grabbing the badge and you get, you know, you get someone like Phil Foden you love, or KDB. People like, I don't know, people like Rodri, or more passionate players. They feel a little bit easier to fall in love with, don't they? You know, and I don't mean that as a dig at Sterling, but it just felt like he kept himself to himself, which was fine. But then obviously there was all the rumours about him falling out with Guardiola and stuff like that. And then the moves, it's weird. It's because, I don't know. It's weird. Because Sterling was for a while wonderful. He really was absolutely wonderful. SDL, I do think in the chat, I do think for a couple of seasons he was world class. You can't look at those goal contributions and not be world class. A lot of that wasn't the system. A lot of that was him playing at his very best, scoring wonder goals, great assists. He was fantastic for a while, you know. But I don't think Sterling's a bad person. I don't. I just don't think something about... Some people just connect with the fans better, essentially. And I don't think I ever connected with Sterling fully emotionally. I did defend him an awful lot, and I enjoyed watching him. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that to be a legend, I think you have to have full connection. And if there was ever doubts about the connection, ultimately joining Man United is not going to help it, you know. And leaving under a cloud with alleged reports of falling out with Pep over first team involvement, it's not great, unfortunately. But either way, Sterling, good for him. I want to talk about Mateus Nunes. Well, this news is interesting, isn't it? According to Rob Dawson, City are aware of interest from Atletico Madrid and Mateus Nunes, but they're yet to make a formal approach. City yet to make a final decision on his future, but as things stand, they have not ruled out his departure before the transfer deadline. Atletico would prefer a season-long loan deal for Mateus Nunes with the option to make the move permanent next summer. I'm against this, personally. I don't feel like he should be going alone. It's a weird one. I'm very complicated on this because you might feel like my view on Nunes and this transfer is sort of contradictory, and it is. I can't deny that. My view on Nunes is that I don't think he's a Manchester City level footballer. I keep saying that and I'm getting a lot of kickback against it, but I just don't feel he is. And I don't. Everyone says we've seen signs of promise. I don't really think we have. I think we've seen signs of a few good runs. But you could put Adama Traore in the midfield and he'd do those runs as well. But does it mean he's a Manchester City level midfielder potentially? Absolutely not. I just don't for a second think that Nunes has the intelligence on the ball. We don't need a guy who can beat 4 people in the middle of the pitch. We need a guy who can pass teams to death. Kovacic can beat 2 or 3 people in the middle of the pitch, but then choose the right pass because he's smarter. I think Kovacic is a better version of everything Nunes is. And I think Nunes, unfortunately, was a panic buy. I think he's a good footballer. I think he is. But do I think he's a great midfielder? I keep saying it. The levels of Manchester City midfielders, ask yourself a question. Can he be a genius? And if you don't think so, that's what we... Can he be game close to genius? I don't think he can. I don't think he has a final pass. I don't think he's a good finisher. I don't think he knows how to play in the pockets. I don't think he's a good crosser. I don't think he's particularly good defensively, actually. I don't think he's that physical. So I think what you've got is a guy who's a decent passer. He's got a lot of energy, can work really hard. He's got a good dribbling. He's got a good work rate. But I don't think he's particularly great defensively, and I don't think he's a genius creatively. And Manchester City's levels for me in terms of midfielders are Ilkay Gundogan, it's David Silva, it's Kevin De Bruyne, it's Rodri, it's Fernandinho. All these things, and I feel for him. Because I feel like he's one of those things where people go, oh, he hasn't got his chance. But I hear this narrative a lot around footballers where fans of every team do it, where they go, when a player hasn't played, like, oh, they haven't got their chance. Of course they have. What do you think they do every single day? Like football, their chance is in training. The chance is absolutely in training. And if they don't do it in training, they're not going to play. Do you think Guardiola should just play him because he's not impressing in training? And if they're not playing, the only conclusion is that they're not impressing in training. Guardiola has given him some minutes on the pitch, and he hasn't really ripped anything up or ripped the world up or anything like that. He's been fine. But they get a chance based on training. There's a reason Rico Lewis got in the team at 17 years old, because he was great in training, And that ultimately, if Guardiola does not play a player, it's because Guardiola is not seeing enough. Guardiola does not care who you are. I think people think Guardiola has favourites for the sake of it. Guardiola has favourites because he trusts players and knows their quality. If Nunes was brilliant and showed potential, he would absolutely get game time. In the way that when Rodri joined and looked a bit plodding every now and then, Guardiola knew there was a genius there because he had seen the signs. And there was signs of genius every now and then from Rodri, even if he wasn't great in his first season. He was just decent. And the question, as Fact Checker said, well, why did we buy him? I think it was a panic buy, if I'm being honest. Paqueta fell through. I think Jorge Mendes was involved. Probably a sort of deal there with Mendes. Mendes has brought Diaz, Ederson. He's involved with Cancelo, I think. Mendes is one of the most powerful people in football. I think he suggested it for a decent deal and a bit of a punt. We'll help you out on this. I'll help you on that. A little bit of politics at play. I think because Guardiola had appreciated that he'd played against Man City well in the past and he was available and he was a number. I think sometimes Guardiola and any manager looks at a player and goes, "There's ability there. I can make him better." But you don't know until you see it up close. I think ultimately he took a punt, and when he got in training, they decided he's just not good enough. You don't know until you see it up close. And I feel like, unfortunately, it was a punt. Maybe sort of greasing of some wheels with Mendes. And I think we got it wrong, man. We got it wrong. And I feel like we just cut our losses. We made 2 poor decisions in Nunes and Phillips. We wasted best part of 80-90 million. And I don't feel that is a level. If we're going to spend over 20-30 million on a player, it has to be a player that we think can walk into the first team. It has to be. Big money now should be in players that can start, not backups. I just don't rate Nunes at all personally. So you're wondering why I'm against this loan deal, because ultimately I feel like Nunes, we need a finality to this. I don't believe for 1 second. I've just explained it, fact checker. I feel like they thought he was a good player, maybe good better, but then realised he's not Man City level. And I do think it was a Georges Mendes deal where we sort of did a whole handshake and trust, and look, there's a lot of politics that go and play between agents and clubs and whatever. And I think Mendes is, very powerful. It helps us. And look, he wasn't even playing that well at Wolves. And I tried to see the positives in it, and there was some real good positives when he was at Sporting, wasn't it? Sporting, I think. But it's not worked. So for me, alone, Pascal, you don't agree with me. You're saying you don't agree with Pep at the same time, mate. Like, I didn't say he wasn't a good player, but our level isn't good, mate. Good is 6 out of 10. Our level is 9 out of 10, pal. That's the thing. So it's one of those things where, look, it doesn't matter what you think, Pascal. It doesn't matter what I think. It's very obvious that Guardiola doesn't rate him. Otherwise, guess what? He'd be playing. He isn't playing, so therefore Guardiola doesn't rate him. Am I wrong? If he's starting, people like O'Reilly and whatever, you had him in the Community Shield when he's back. That's it. We made a mistake, and it is a failure of the board. But ultimately, we were due a bad patch. We made so many great signings that have worked perfectly. We just sort of dropped the ball a little bit with midfielders, And I think ultimately Nunes, I think there's a slight quality issue, but I also think it's a stylistic issue. Yeah, I think he'd be fine in a different team, maybe a Spurs, early Klopp, Liverpool, something like that. But when you look at the immediate little link-up play for Gundogan with Haaland around the area, which I retweeted, go and have a look at it on Twitter if you haven't seen it already, you see he's not close to that level. And I don't mind him, I really don't, but I just don't think he's City level. So, but I don't want him to go out on loan, though. The only thing is I would say he's still a good footballer. He's a decent footballer. And loan, I don't think his ability, his value increases if he goes on loan. I don't think he plays that much. They've just signed Conor Gallagher. I think he'd be a squad player for Atletico Madrid. He might improve him, actually, Simeone. He might do, but I don't think he's going to be a starter. I would much rather we keep him for... It's one of these things. I'd much rather keep him essentially for use in the winter months when the squad gets small. Either sell him and wipe your hands of it, or keep him as a backup for now. I don't agree with a loan, because essentially we're just giving someone else a play for free when you absolutely know that we're going to get loads of injuries. And how often do we see it around winter? We see it all the time when the bench is literally both Ortega and Carson on the bench, a random fit defender, it's usually someone like a Nathan Ake or someone like that, then 4 academy players of the Sousa-Ho level, or Michael Hamilton and Sousa-Ho. 2 years ago, it was Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis. Now they're good, but the equivalent of 2 years ago. And then it's a forward who's not fit, who won't play. And the squad gets really small. We see it all the time, and we don't make any substitutions because we haven't got anyone. And that's going to happen. It happens every time. So unless we're selling him, keep him for that scenario. Because the squad is small, We need, sell... I don't like loans for the sake of it, because loans, the only person who get anything, and the only club who gets anything out of it is Atletico. City get nothing out of a Nunes loan. Absolutely nothing. He's not going to play every week at Atletico. So his value's not going up or down. It's just going to stay low, And then what happens is he gets on loans and loans and loans. I just don't like it. But if it happens, I wouldn't be disappointed if he went. The squad is not bigger this year. It absolutely isn't, mate. It's about the same size, but either way, we've got more games this year. You got to consider that City have got the Club World Cup at the end of it. We can play up to 70 games. It's absurd. And the players have been playing all summer. Everyone is tired. There are going to be injuries. There are going to be fitness problems. So it's one of those things where you've got to be realistic about it. Guys, let's get to 115 likes. Come on, 243 watching. Can we get to 115, which is half of that? Come on, we can do it. We need 45 more. We can do it. Yeah, I'd say he's more flexible, but not bigger. And I know he's well down the pecking order. What I would say, by the way, if he does go, I don't mind because McAtee gets more minutes. But we have to be realistic. I just don't. I'm bored of kicking the can down the road, essentially. I want us to deal with an issue right now and not pretend that it'll go away and get better. It won't get better. It'll be more of a mess. A little bit of news about Kabore. Apparently, he is wanted by FC Augsburg and Werder Bremen. FC Venezia and Star Reims apparently after him as well. A whole bunch of teams are after him. Isaac Kabore was on the bench the other day. I don't think he's going to stay. I don't think he is personally. I think it's one of those things where he'll hang around until the end of the window. So he's got 3 or 4 days left. But he's not going to play much when you got Kyle Walker, you got Rico Lewis. I don't think Kabore is anywhere near City level either. I'd be interested to see what he could do with a year of Guardiola because he's got the physicality. But I don't think he is. I mean, he has got physicality like Walker, but he's not Walker like. I think Walker was always a level below Manchester City's squad in terms of technical ability. But what Kyle Walker had was this immense physical stature and experience in the Premier League. He was an absolute freak of nature physically with his pace. And he was already a decent level Premier League player. And Guardiola made him a proper footballer in terms of, he was always still the weakest technically, but he made him a good level footballer. And I don't think Kabore has that level of physicality to make it worthwhile. If Kabore was a physical freak, I'd say keep him around. Maybe he could be the next Walker, but he's not. He's just a fast right back. He's okay. He looks good. I don't feel he's anywhere near City's level right now. And ultimately, Rico Lewis is the ideology for me. You watch Rico Lewis and you see exactly what City midfielders should be. You know, they should be defenders should be that level of brilliance. They should be technically phenomenal, and I think that's where City need to move on to. And I just saw those texts, by the way, these tweets here. No Gallagher text Gundogan when we left saying, "Come back home, brother." The producer saying you got to send a message back saying bring Oasis back. Maybe you did, but yeah, Kabore, yeah. See what happens to him. Sell him, whatever. I don't really care. Have the buyback potentially. I'm relaxed about it. Ultimately, though, with Cancelo, I am, to go back to the top of the video, nonplussed. Nonplussed about Nunes. We need to get people away from the club that we're nonplussed about, you know. There's a lot of deadwood hanging around, you know. And it's one of those things where I would rather just move on. Jay saying, what about backup striker? I actually liked the reports the other day of that Ori fella, you know. Not because I know much about him. I know nothing about him. I've watched videos of him. He looks like a decent player. Where's he gone? I'm trying to find the Ori, whatever he's called. There was rumours about some young lad. When Ornstein tweeted about it. I'm trying to find it. Facts. I don't know how many times, mate. If you listen to the video, you want me to explain the Nunes thing. It was a mistake. It's simple as that. We bought him because he thought he might be all right, and it failed. So I don't know what else. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't forget, Real Madrid bought Eden Hazard for 100 million. A disaster. Barcelona spent 140 million on Coutinho. Finally, Man City made a couple of mistakes in the transfer market. We hadn't made any major ones since Mendy and Bravo. So we made some mistakes finally. It doesn't need any deeper analysis. Sometimes, and this is a big phrase that I reckon everyone should carry around in life, shit happens. Sometimes shit happens. Sometimes you sign a player, you drop a bollock, and you get it wrong. But guess what? We still won the fucking league. You know, it doesn't matter. Everything was absolutely fine. We made a mistake. We cracked on. We're still a great team. And we probably arguably fixed it by returning Gundogan. Got time to sort in now. I'm not going to... Do you know what? This is a bit of a rant about life here. I saw someone yesterday on Twitter say, don't, something like, it was something, let me try and find it. It made me laugh because I just thought, people are looking for problems, man. Yeah, someone quote tweeted a compilation of Jeremy Doku saying, "I won't give up on him." I was like, "Won't give up on him?" Like, what do you mean by that? Like, this idea, this is about Doku, that people are giving up on Doku. As if, like, there's some absolute, like he's having a terrible run of form and like and like that we need to somehow defend him. Jeremy Doku is literally one of the best young wingers in world football. He's not perfect, but he's literally one of the best young wingers in world football. The point I'm making, if you're like saying stuff like that or we're moaning so much about Nunes, the point I'm making is we're looking for something to be upset about. Like, we absolutely are. I think this is sort of a consequence of success. When you're so successful in life, people have a tendency to look around for problems. It's such a fascinating part of the human psyche that humans are self-destructive. There's no greater proof than football fans. Watch football fans of the greatest team in the world still find something to moan about. It's like, it's wild. Like, it's one of those things where you'd think fans would just be happy knowing that their team are the best. We are literally, I mean, up until maybe we didn't win the Champions League last week, we had months as categorically the best team in world football. But some were still moaning about everything. It's like, there is literally not enough for some people, because people are inherently negative and like to moan. So when you see people going about Doku, oh, I'll still defend him, or moaning about Nunes being such a mistake, it's like, are you ever happy? Does it really matter? You know, they made a mistake, but are we still brilliant? Have we still got world-class footballers? Have we still got loads of, you know... I guess the point I'm making is, like, I think people don't realise that they are doing it to themselves, this negativity. Things are fine. They're absolutely fine. It could literally never be better than winning 4 leagues in a row. We are the best team in this country by probably the league has ever seen. And some people just get so bogged down in the minutiae, get so bogged down in the small things that they don't understand. Like, I literally go... Oh, Nunes is a bit of a waste. But I go, I just don't care. We've just signed Gundogan. We've got fucking Rodri to come back. We've got Foden, De Bruyne. I am not losing any sleep over Nunes. Like, I just do not care. I don't. Because we made a mistake. But so what? Before that mistake, we made 100 right decisions. It's like making a cup of tea and it being a bad one and getting really down on it. You're like, I just had a great cup of tea. That's the point I'm making. It doesn't matter. It does not need an inquest. It doesn't, like, we are really, 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 really fucking good. And so are the board. No one is perfect. So there we go. A little bit, I got a bit of a rant there. But, like, it was just something I was reading on Twitter and I was like, why do we do this? Why do we create these problems? Like, why do we do it, man? Like, I don't understand. Like, you just, sometimes you drop your biscuit in the brew, you know? Sometimes you drop your toast the other way around. But it's just that life. Sometimes if you get to take the bin out, you know, it doesn't matter. Are you all right? You've got your health still. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. That's my view on life. If you realise, if you struggle with this stuff, here's a little tip for you. If you find yourself worrying about this one thing, see if you can list loads of positives next to it. So if you can go, oh, he's good, he's good, he's good, he's good, he's good, he's good, he's good. And if you think, well, I've only got 2 things to worry about, but 80 reasons to be happy, switch your mental energy. I know it's hard to do that. And City Slacker, you're right, mate. You're right. Some people don't know that about themselves. And that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to dig out people, but I'm trying to say you don't realise you're doing it. And when people tell you that you are doing it, try and remember it. And I actually don't think a lot of people are doing it to be negative intentionally, City Slacker. I really don't. Because I know what people are like. I don't think it's intended a dishonest thing or a nasty thing. I think a lot of people just see the worst. But what I will say, and I'm saying this for people's own good. I'm saying it for your own good because there's such a tendency to get bogged down in the weeds that you won't enjoy things as much as you should do. Because I saw people the day after winning the treble just start talking about transfers. And I'm like, be in the moment, man. Be in the moment. Absolutely just enjoy it is what I would say in life because... Look, Sven said it the other day. There was a story about Sven where he apparently walked up to... I don't know who it was. I didn't see the other side of it. He walked up to some person he knew at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. with a bottle of champagne and sat by the pool. And the guy replied to him saying, what are we celebrating? And he just went, we're celebrating life. We're celebrating life, my friend. Exactly, Sven. We are lucky to be on this massive rock hurtling through space or whatever you believe in, and absolutely nothing else matters. All you can do in life is wake up, and nothing will do will really change the course of anything massively, really, you know. So just wake up, be a good person, and enjoy the things you like, and don't get bogged down too much stuff. That's my advice for life. Anyway, getting a bit philosophical. Yeah. Thank you very much, buddy. It's very kind of you. Ruben is already a great guy. He's wonderful, my little son. He's empathetic already. He already cuddles us and asks if we're okay, and he's only 1.5 years old. He's wonderful. But yeah, I like chatting about stuff like this because I think it's interesting. And I'm a positive person, but I'm also a catastrophizer. I am, but not about football because football doesn't panic me, and not when things are objectively good. So Cancelo, Laporte, they were great. You know, great players, and we got decent money back from them, and you know that's all it is. Thank you very much, City Slacker. Like, I don't think I'm. The thing is, City Slacker, I'm optimistic, but I don't think I'm like saccharine, sweet sugar optimistic. I don't think I'm optimistic for the sake of it. Like, if we were 7th right now, I wouldn't be sat here telling. Or second game of the season, maybe I would do. But we finished 5th last year. I wouldn't be telling you everything's fine, you know. But when you've won the league 4 years in a row, like, nah, we're positive. Like, I literally I'm just trying. I think I'm being realistic, you know. I just feel like I don't like everything's rosy all the time. It drives me mad too. But I do like reminding people that actually I do think there's a portion of people that unintentionally aren't going to enjoy this period anywhere near enough because it will come and go and we'll move on a little bit. And I feel like they're not going to enjoy the success because it won't last forever. So last thing they'll say. It's not going to last forever. Enjoy it while you can. Sorry, last 10 minutes have been me ranting a little bit. But I don't know. I've always been a good chat. I've enjoyed it. Let me know what you make of Cancelo leaving. Is it Gabore? Has he got a future at Manchester City? Nunes, the rumours. What do you make of it? And Sterling's an interesting one too, isn't it? Not City news, but it sort of is. I don't know about backup striker, by the way. I got distracted, didn't I, by the Oscarson thing. I forgot to mention that. I'll go back to it briefly. Yeah, it came from Ornstein, and the reason I didn't know much about this guy at all. Nothing. I'd never heard of him. But the reason I like this rumour is just simply because you just never see it. You don't see stuff like this very often. Potential young, non-top 5 league strikers or players come to Manchester City as potential backups or whatever. That was it. Like we considered Ori Oskarsson. You know, what a great name. 19-year-old Iceland international. Looks a goal scorer. I don't know if he's great or not. He's only raw because he's young. But I like stuff like this because it's a random punt and there's a bit of mystery in it. And once again, you wouldn't expect to be the main guy. I don't think it's going to happen, but I know people go, well, yeah, what about Alvarez? He's outside top 5 leagues. I meant top 5 European leagues. There's something about signing a player for South America. Is like they get so much profile that you all know who they are. You know who Jesus is. You know who Alvarez is beforehand because they're South American, so they get a lot of attention. So, Ori Oskarsson, I don't know anything about him, but I would like it because it sounds fun. And because I don't know anything about him, and because it's not much money, it'd be 15 million quid or whatever, and he could be brilliant. And it could be like, what I would compare it to is like when United signed Solskjaer. Solskjaer was a random punt from nowhere, and I like the idea of something like that. You know, when United signed him, and like obviously it was a different era, different money. You know, they signed him from Mull, didn't they, for a few million, and he was only young, and he came a backup, like something like that for me. You know. Something like that for me would be fun. The young West Ham lad is purely an EDS signing. He's not going to be City's level. But I like a random punt from Scandinavia, you know. Thank you very, very much, Scott, with the super chat. He says, stay positive is hard, but important. It is hard. But that's why I'll always be here to try and sort of, you know, maybe steer some people the right way if I can. Scott, you're a legend. So staying positive, hard but important. Something I love about our support is that I find a lot of us believe until the end. Absolutely. Look, if we learned one thing is that this club fights till the end, and we should always remember that, you know? Scott, I love you, my friend. I've got a phone call from the wife, which means she's locked outside, so I've got to go down to the call. Guys, in a bit. Bye-bye. Love you all loads. Like, video, subscribe. In a bit. Bye-bye.